Something big is happening right now in the United States. First, they told us that everything was fine, but now they're not so sure. Even the media is starting to panic, but they still won't call it what it is.
People are really worried about the economy.
The stock market plunged on Friday with the S&P 500 having its second worst day of the year.
Your reaction to the new inflation and spending data, what does that tell you about the state of our economy?
It's starting to deteriorate.
Consumer confidence is falling off of a cliff. Defaults are exploding and businesses are barely hanging on. Yet experts are scrambling to explain what's going on, but it's not a mystery. It's the Great Squeeze, where inflation never left, debt continued to pile up, and now everyday Americans are getting squeezed out of the middle class in real time. Just look at the signs. Car repossessions are higher than they were during the Great Financial Crisis. Credit card debt continues to skyrocket as people are forced to finance their groceries, and small businesses are ringing the alarm, saying that layoffs, cuts, and closures are in their future, something that's going to impact all of us and make this situation that much worse. But at the center of it all, government spending, trillions in deficits, and a Federal Reserve who have backed themselves into a corner. So how much longer can this go on? What happens when the next crisis hits? And how does all of this impact your savings, your future, your wallet, and most importantly, how can you protect yourself now? Let's get into it. Let's start with the facts. In case you missed it this week, Bloomberg reported that car repossessions in the United States have hit the highest level on record since 2009 during the Great Financial Crisis, with an estimated 1.73 million vehicles seized in 2024. But this isn't a usual number. For reference, that number has doubled in the last 2 years. But that's not all. In fact, this is forecasted to get a whole lot worse, not better, as it is now reported that the amount of people who are subprime borrowers for their auto loan or behind 60 days or more on their car payment is the highest percentage ever in history, 6.6%. And with over 100 million Americans currently having a monthly car payment, that means there could be 6 million plus Americans who cannot afford their car and are actively behind or going to lose their car. 6 million Americans who might rely on that car to get to work. And it's no wonder, given the fact that most Americans don't even have $1,000 in their savings to cover even a minor inconvenience or economic emergency. But did you know that the average monthly car payment on a new vehicle is $748, a whopping $748? But before someone says, well, then they shouldn't be buying a new vehicle, the average used car monthly payment is $520. $520 if you need a vehicle to get to and from work. How are you supposed to afford that? This isn't about taking out loans you can't afford. I mean, it is, but it's also a cost of living crisis that we are witnessing in live time. But the squeeze is just getting started. It's no wonder, with inflation continuing to rise and our purchasing power actively being chipped away at every single day. I mean, the media right now is trying to tell us it's all because of tariffs. And I'm not saying that tariff policies aren't inflationary, but I'm saying this is a problem that has been in the works for far longer. The attack on our dollar has been in progress for years, really going back to the beginning of the Federal Reserve and going off of the gold standard. Our dollars have continued to lose their purchasing power, something that we have seen a rapid acceleration of in the last few years. Hence these outrageous car payments at a 10% rate. Again, it's no wonder that this squeeze is happening to the middle class, as evident by credit card payments. More and more Americans are turning to financing their everyday purchases. In fact, total credit card balances in the United States has jumped 60% since 2021, from about $770 trillion to a record $1.21 trillion today. But as more people need debt just to survive, we also see delinquencies rising. In fact, 7% of borrowers in the United States are now in a state of delinquency. But it's not just individuals either. It's businesses, small, medium, large, all struggling under the weight of crushing debt rates and what is increasingly looking like a slowdown in demand from consumers. Which is again why bankruptcies are at the highest level since the Great Financial Crisis. There's that term again, since the Great Financial Crisis. We are ticking all of these boxes across the board, because here's the truth that no one wants to say. This is the recession, not a crash overnight, dramatic Wall Street panic kind, but a slow, painful kind where the middle class gets bled dry and the top stays insulated. Not to say that a dramatic crash isn't coming, but what we are seeing right now is truly a recession. And I understand that technically on paper the data doesn't support one, but guess what? A recession is more than just numbers and negative GDP growth. A recession is about its people. And right now, real people are losing assets, real people are losing wealth, and there is no breathing room. And we're seeing a pullback in spending in the middle class, but no matter how many corners are cut or how much they try and save, it's not enough, because the truth is, income and wages have not kept up with the cost of living. No matter what they try and tell us that everything has equaled out, it's not true. We have not gotten back that 25% of our purchasing power that we've lost. The truth is, the highest earners, those are the people who have been keeping the economy afloat. That is where the consumer spending has been coming from. But a lot of those gains have been from stock market or other investments, not necessarily from income and wage. That gap has continued to grow across all levels of earners. But the thing is as those gains slow down, as we see people pulling back and moving into safe haven assets, because they see the volatility that is happening and that is going to continue to happen, we are going to see that economic slowdown. It is already happening. But here's where it gets worse. The Fed can't fix this. They raised rates to fight inflation, and guess what? Inflation never left. Housing, transportation, groceries, everything is still more expensive than it was before, and inflation is heating up, not cooling off, meaning that typically in a recession, what we could expect is that the Fed would cut rates. Maybe they will still, those two that are slated for this year. But if they do that, they risk inflation not only continue to increase, but continue to increase at a much more drastic rate. Meaning it's a lose-lose, because the everyday American once again loses the value of their dollar. They're stuck, and so are we if we keep playing by their rules, because at the end of the day, the Great Squeeze is not another economic cycle. It's a pattern. It's a pattern of a system that was never built for the average person. Back in 2020, they injected trillions into the system. Trillions that went to Wall Street and helped keep the financial elite in positions of power and make the wealthy wealthier, while everyone else lost their purchasing power through inflation. Those in positions of power continue to squeeze all they can out of the middle class in the growing divide between the haves and the have-nots. But this isn't random. I keep saying this is how the system works. Inflate, extract, reset. So what do you do in a system like this? Well, not everyone is in the same position, but if you are someone who has wealth or assets to protect, it's time to stop playing defense, to take your power back, to make sure that you get out of their debt trap, that you protect your purchasing power, and that you don't get stuck with a digital IOU or a fiat paper promise. Now, for me, and for many of those I talk to, this starts with a real tangible asset such as gold and silver. Not as some investment or a trade to flip, but as a way to opt out of their game. An asset where you can preserve your purchasing power, especially before the next phase of the squeeze continues to accelerate. Because this isn't a drill, this isn't maybe I'll think about this next year. No, the Great Squeeze is already happening right now. It is here. So the question is, are you prepared for what's happening today, and are you ready for what comes tomorrow? Now, everyone's financial situation looks different, but what I highly recommend everyone do as a starting point is download our free gold and silver ITM guide. It is the ultimate guide to gold and silver. It has a ton of great information in it, and anyone can get a copy by either scanning the QR code and download your copy today, or I have a link down below in the description where you can get your copy. Download that today so you have it offline. You can review it at your own time, but to take action, to take this a step further and talk to one of our expert analysts who will help answer all of your questions, learn how we can help you by calling us at the number below, or again, scan the QR code or click the link in the description to set up a time that works best for you. Our analysts are the best. And I say that all the time, but I say it because it's true. They really care about helping people, and I get to see that every day because I work with them every day. So If you want to talk to someone you can trust to help you with your situation, someone you can trust to make sure that you have a strategy in place for what's coming next, talk to one of our expert analysts. And as always, thank you so much for being here. I'm Taylor Kenny with ITM Trading, your trusted source for all things gold, silver, and lifelong wealth protection. Until next time.